Well, good evening and welcome to Nashville. I'm Alan Jackson. Sometimes watching the news is like seeing a poorly produced movie where things just don't make any sense. Take the coverage of President Trump's war on drugs. 50 years ago, President Nixon declared drug abuse public enemy number one, and the war on drugs began. But nobody can remember any anti-drug strategy that has ever worked until now. Because now we finally have a president who's executing a real war on drugs. Closing the borders north and south, taking out the drug runners as they speed across the Caribbean at 60 to 80 miles an hour, and arresting and deporting the big drug dealers who've set up shop all across the country. But like a bad movie, the president's success is used by the liberal media to turn the drug runners into the good guys. They leave out anything resembling the truth, such as the fact that 100,000 Americans die from a drug overdose each year. That's double the number of people who die on our highways, more than double who die from the flu and pneumonia, and equal to the number who die from diabetes. The difference is that the government mandated seatbelts and airbags, and the drug companies produce diet drugs, and we give flu shots and do whatever possible to save lives. So why would anyone from any political party want to take issue with this new war on drugs? And even threaten violence when President Trump is doing everything possible to protect Americans from dying. Well, there's no vaccine for Trump derangement syndrome, not yet anyway. But there are politicians who deal in common sense. Former Senator Scott Brown is one of them, and he's joining us tonight from New Hampshire. Welcome back, Scott.
Great to be on, Alan. Good day to you and all your listeners and viewers.
Has the snow started flying in New England?
Yeah, we had a little bit up north, for sure. The Mount Washington is getting a tremendous amount of snow, and had some flurries here. It was 26 this morning.
Wow.
So here we go.
Come south. Well, New England's had a drug problem for years. Can you explain what's going on with these people who are fighting the only war on drugs that's ever worked?
Now, listen, what's happening here in New Hampshire, we have a porous border. We only have like one Border Patrol person up there. What they do is they'll either chopper in or drive in, smuggle in drugs from Canada. That's why the president's effort to, get more help is important. That's why those tariffs are in effect, quite frankly, part of it. And then they'll take it, mules will take it, they'll bring it down to, through Massachusetts, through New Hampshire, through Massachusetts, down to New York City. They'll cut it up, shake it up, mix it up, and then they'll get it right back through our area. And it's hurting and killing people still in our area. It's better, but we need to do a lot more. So what you were referencing, obviously, is what's happening with our military basically getting rid of boats that are bringing drugs to our country. The president's put everyone on notice, so we're not going to allow that, whether it's on your land or not. We're going to not let drug cartels and others have these bases for narcotics to be exported to our country to kill people. And yeah, I'm shocked that people aren't supporting it. They say, oh, he's breaking the law. Well, I'm not aware of any laws that have been broken in terms, because if they have, they would immediately ship it up to the courts, and that hasn't happened.
As if things are not bad enough, a group of congressional Democrats just released a video telling our enlisted men and women that they have a duty to refuse orders from the president. I would call it a Democrat-led insurrection. Listen to these comments.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
And right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad, but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
Scott, as you know, there are laws against insurrection. Did you ever think you'd see something like this?
Well, as you can look from behind here, there's my JAG crest. I served in the military for almost 40 years, and I was a military attorney for I think 30 of those years. Last war at the Pentagon, advising one of the Joint Chiefs on the rules of engagement, law of war, and a whole host of other things. And I can tell you firsthand that virtually every commander, especially on active duty, has a JAG at their disposal. If there's any order that comes down that they feel is not correct or needs clarification, they will, within seconds, within minutes, get guidance from their JAG. And usually that's what they rely on, period. So the thing that's interesting about that is Maggie Goodlander, who's a New Hampshire congressional person, is on there. Not only was I shocked to see her and see that video as a whole, I was embarrassed for New Hampshire. We have one of the highest per capita amounts of veterans and people that serve militarily in New Hampshire. The fact that she's telling people to disobey orders is not only, like I said, shocking, but embarrassing for us. I believe that they should be censured that with the most highest censure that they have in Congress and the Senate. They should also lose their committee assignments or be expelled, because these things are, I believe, treasonous. They rise to a level that I've never seen before. And they said, oh, the military's under tremendous stress. Yeah, because of people like you questioning the fact that they should not be following orders. And the stuff they've gone through out of the last 4 years in the Biden administration with not only the vaccines, but then you have the DEI, wokeness, and trans in the military. Yeah, they're stressed from that. The enrollment and the signups are the highest they've ever been. They're hitting all their numbers and more. The military is doing great, but when they hear crap like this, they just like shake their head. And quite frankly, I don't know who's going to believe these people. I don't.
What's even worse about that video is that it's not as if the protesters who are already driving their cars into the ICE authorities or throwing rocks and shooting at them, it's not like they need any further prompting, but the media reports nothing about the drug dealers who've been caught, the rapists, the convicted criminals, the other people who are here illegally. You're running for office again now. Have you found any voters who want criminals to stay here and wander around freely?
Well, sadly, there are those people on the left that say, why are we doing this? They're law-abiding citizens. They're just trying to get away from a bad country. I said, yeah, but they're number one, a lot of them that are in jail right now, not necessarily in New Hampshire, because we've no sanctuary state or cities. But, Massachusetts and surrounding New England states, they're actually fighting to keep these people in prison. They've been criminally charged, found guilty. They have deportation orders, and they violated them. And now we want to get rid of them, and they're fighting to keep them here. It's completely upside down. And yes, our law enforcement folks are following the law. I know people on those details who are trying to do the right thing and get these criminal illegals out of here. And listen, if you follow the law, you have nothing to hide. Will somebody maybe be picked up inadvertently? Yes, if that's the case, there are recourse for them. I certainly hope not, but they seem to be doing their homework. They show up exactly knowing who they want to get. And usually there are ancillary people there who are also here illegally and have broken the law, and they will be, basically deported.
Do you think this Trump derangement syndrome might lead to even worse violence? And will any Democrats stand up to say, you all need to calm down and talk these things through instead of just getting more violent?
Well, it hasn't happened here in New Hampshire, and I know there's maybe one or two nationally that have called for that. But when you have Congress people trying to break through fences and hurt and hit and assault our law enforcement people, if they don't like the law, they should change the law. These people are following the law, and if not, then there would be lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. And even when there's been lawsuits, that usually has been overturned because they are following the law and they have the right to do their job. And the fact that I believe in qualified immunity to protect our law enforcement people, I believe that we are a nation of laws and they should be able to do their job. And I believe that Joe Biden screwed up big time by allowing all these people in here. And because it hurts our economy, hurts the people on the lower end of the economic scale who are trying to find work. You have people who are here illegally undercutting them so they can't find jobs. There's a housing problem as a result of them getting housing respectfully that they're not entitled to. So I'm hoping that we can figure out a way to kind of get along and do our jobs, but we'll see. It's one of the reasons I'm running.
Well, Scott Brown, there's more to discuss. Can you stay for another segment?
Sure.
Well, we'll be right back. We're back now with former Senator and Ambassador Scott Brown. With a week until Thanksgiving, there's some good economic news. The price for everything that goes into a traditional Thanksgiving dinner has fallen. Gas is well under $3 a gallon, and there are a lot of early deals in the retail sector. We learned today that 119,000 new jobs were added in September. All that hasn't stopped the Democrats from trying to argue that the economic sky is falling on us, to which President Trump has an answer.
The Biden administration started the affordability crisis, and my administration is ending it. I'm ending it. Prices are way down. Last month it was announced we produced more oil and gas than any time in the history of our country by far. And when you do that, everything comes down.
Well, that's all true, but 60% of the country still believes their financial situation is only fair or poor. And if it's like most elections, the midterms could turn on how much the economy improves between now and next fall. How do you see it playing out, even in your own campaign?
Well, affordability is important, absolutely important. It's something that I speak with people about, and I'm actually living myself. We all try to, do our very best to make the dollars stretch. Fortunately, here we have like a Sam's Club, what's called BJ's. With my BJ's card, paid $2.38 for a gallon of gas. At Market Basket down the street, $4 for 2 dozen eggs. There are certain things that are coming down, and you have to be a frugal, good shopper like I am. And that being said, we need to reduce beef costs. I know the president's making some efforts in that regard. I think we should do more local beef, and he's lowering tariffs on goods that we just don't produce. I think that's a good start as well. But don't forget, he's right. The inflation was out of control. Gas prices were $5, $6, $7 a gallon. The eggs were out of sight. There's so many things negative that were happening under the previous administration. The president has been doing it since January. Give the guy a break. It's going to take hold. You see the stock market, all the recent earnings reports, the job numbers, as you indicated, are up. But obviously people are hurting as a result of the government shutdown. Some people aren't getting food. They're not getting their checks. Yeah, and quite frankly, I blame Congress for a lot of that. The Democrats, they 15 times they had to open up the government. Finally, they did, and they didn't care about people's pay or their food benefits or their anything else. And so shame on them. And I'm hopeful that people will be a little patient. I hope they have great Thanksgivings and holidays. And obviously there's so many places like where you're the pastor and others that are there as a safety net and a helping hand when you're having difficulties. Don't do anything stupid. Don't steal. Don't make bad decisions. But reach out to your neighbors and friends and do things a little bit differently maybe this year.
Well, if you will, put on your ambassador hat for a moment. I want to ask you about some of the current foreign policy issues. We know how many wars the president has settled and that he's working on Russia and Ukraine now. But I wonder if that success will have any effect on the congressional races next year, since there are no American troops currently fighting overseas.
Well, it's a peace through strength. I mean, he has ended wars, and he's done that by using economics instead of bullets. When you see the Saudis giving us $1 trillion of investment, and we have a better relationship trying to get them in the Abrams Accords, trying to have them be the world leader instead of Iran in that part of the world is important. So that peace through strength and economic strength is critically important. I think it's brilliant how he's working that. Because instead of fighting, they're saying, okay, how about a trade deal? How about you do this and do that? We'll buy this, you buy that. How about you guys buy this and you buy that? And that works. So and I think it's a good thing that we're not fighting anywhere. And I think it's a good thing that he's trying to get, the Israel-Hamas, which is really Israel-Iran, and its proxies settled and make that region safer. I'm glad that the other countries are getting involved in that regard. And Ukraine, listen, he needs to put those draconian sanctions on Putin immediately, and he needs to keep the tariffs even higher on the countries that are buying that underground oil, that black market oil, to shut off the spigot to Russia. Then you'll have a whole different situation happening there.
I have a question regarding the president's mission to stop the continued slaughter of Christians in Nigeria. I mean, Boko Haram, another radical Islamic group, has been carrying out a genocide and intentional destruction of a whole people group. But the media seems far more determined to talk about Epstein than to give the president any credit for saving thousands of lives. Is there just no end to their shame and determination?
Well, I remember when I was a senator, Boko Haram was real. I remember we were making efforts to name them a terrorist group and try to stop that. It's continuing to go on. And the President Trump designated them a country of concern, and then Biden reversed that. and now the president's actually done it again. I think I'm using the right terminology, but yeah, his efforts and recent efforts by celebrities to come out and talk about their faith is important. But he's having apparently direct contact with the leader of that country and telling him, like, you better stop it or else. But there's so many different factions and groups who are just, Muslim haters, and they want to wipe Christianity off the continent and off the world, right? The world continents, quite frankly. And, we need to, obviously be vigilant and diligent and be supportive. And I'm hopeful that he succeeds in that regard.
Amen. Well, Scott Brown, thank you for joining us again tonight. I'm sure we'll see you again soon. Enjoy the time with your family next week.
Everybody, happy Thanksgiving. You go to scottbrown.com and help, and God bless you and God bless America.
Well, in a moment, the hope that lives around us every day. I'll be right back. One of the characteristics of this present season is a dramatic increase in lawlessness. It's as if we have been unchecked for so long that now we're just unwilling to submit to the rule of law again. We have politicians telling our soldiers they have a duty to refuse orders from the president. We have major American cities, sanctuary cities, that refuse to enforce federal laws while they simultaneously demand federal funding. We literally have mayors, governors, congressmen, and senators, elected officials that are speaking out against law and order. It's absurd. Well, now consider this. 42 Muslims were elected to public office across the United States in the recent election. This group spans at least 9 states and marks the largest number of Muslim victories in American political history. I think the election of Muslim leaders and leaders who openly campaign on a platform that is contrary to Christian values should be a very loud wake-up call. I'm of the opinion that an election is like when you go to the doctor for a physical and they do your blood work and they come back and say, your cholesterol's a bit high or your glucose is too high. The blood work is just an indicator of your health. Well, I'm of the opinion that an election is an indicator of our spiritual health. And I think what we're finding out is that we're not as healthy as we wanted to believe we were. Now, for clarity's sake, Muslims have every right to run for office and to be chosen for those offices, but I believe those of us who have a biblical worldview, a Christian worldview, should understand that we have invited a spirit that opposes the Spirit of our Lord into authority over our lives. We should not imagine that's going to have a good outcome. If you've read the 10 Commandments, we just violated the beginning of that list. We certainly have the freedom to choose our leaders, but with them comes a spirit that we're giving authority over our lives. That should cause all of us to pray and consider the outcomes of our elections. If we'll choose the Lord, it'll bring hope to all of us. I'll be back with your emails in just a moment. Thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with us. Just a reminder, if you ever miss a live broadcast, you can always go to ajnow.com. There is a full archive there of all of our programs. You can watch them at your leisure as many times as you want. You can even share them with a friend. Your emails are always a highlight. Leona from Roswell, Georgia writes, Jesus tells us to forgive others and not to hate. I try, but how do I forgive atrocities such as what Islam has committed against the Jews and Christians in Gaza, Nigeria, and other places? Well, Leona, this one's pretty simple. We simply don't have an option. If we're going to be forgiven, we have to forgive. Forgiveness begins as a decision of our will. It's not an emotion. It's not about a feeling. It's a choice that we make. Our feelings will catch up. I think it's important to remember that forgiveness is not approval or acceptance. We're simply saying we're going to cancel the sense of indebtedness, the marker I was holding, until you apologize or change or repent. We're not doing that. When we forgive, what we really do is relinquish people into the hands of God. God is a just God, and we don't have to carry the anger and resentment and bitterness and hatred. If we will forgive and tear up that marker, we can trust that God will bring justice to the earth. He's capable of that. Nancy commented on a YouTube episode with Hans von Spakovsky. She said, great video on law in this nation. I'm still learning all of the things we should have but didn't learn in school. I worry about our children and how their lack of knowledge is going to hurt them and this nation in the future. God, please open their eyes and ears to hear your message. Well, Nancy, I think we've got to do our part to help the generations coming behind us learn some of those basic principles. I suspect you're like I was. I didn't always take school as seriously as I might have, but there were voices around me that have always encouraged me to continue to learn. Some have even supplied me with good books or pointed me towards videos or things that would help me. You and I can take that role. Let's not rage against the darkness. Let's keep turning up the light. If we'll do that, there's reasons for hope. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us, and I pray you have a wonderful evening.